We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, 𝙑𝙞𝙙𝙩𝙡𝙚.
Hey everyone, welcome to Master Your Life, the show of insight, intelligence, and inspiration, where we ask you each week to consider who is it you are right now and who is it you are most striving to be. What is it you're trying to create in your life? What would make you feel like you're really living the best life possible for you and you alone? I'm host 𝙑𝙑𝙙𝙩𝙀𝙗𝙀, and this week joined live in person with Greg Bird, my wonderful co-host for Divine Wellbeing and Divine Personal Finances. Welcome to my home studio, Greg.
Yes, thank you, Leah. So exciting to have the first episode live on location at the studio. So happy to be here. Thrilled to have one of my great friends, Janice Baskin, here with today. So Janice, welcome to the stage.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here today, guys.
Yeah, we were excited to actually connect with you because you're an athlete and you're a survivor of a lot of shenanigans of health in your life, and you've won a recent award. And so I think that trifecta is something that is inspirational to a lot of people at this time that are really faced with is what sometimes people feel like is insurmountable challenges. So Greg, maybe you could give a little bit more introduction of Janice.
Yeah. So last week, not this past Saturday, but the other Saturday, there was the BNI Awards Gala. We did it all online. There was 222 people, I believe, that were tuned in. And Janice was actually given the greatest honor, which is the Givers Gain Award.
Yeah. And so what is the Givers Gain Award? Because everyone at BNI maybe knows what that is, but the rest of us innocents probably don't.
So Givers Gain is the core philosophy behind BNI, and it is basically the tenet that if you give selflessly to other people, you will then receive that in return. And really, what it sometimes people feel like, if I give to you, therefore you will give to me. Mm-hmm. And I like to think about it a little bit more like a big swirling pool of giving, where I give to you and maybe you give to somebody and then they give to somebody. And somewhere in that big cosmic chain of everything that's happening, it comes back to you. So it's, in essence, it works in that sense in BNI as a business philosophy, but it's really something that people can take as a core philosophy into life.
Love that. And I tell you, you give way more than I think you always say you give back. But one thing you give everyone in your network is the positive memes. And we start every show with the meme of the day. And I swear, Janice, you're in the top 3 every time we go scrolling and researching. Okay, let's get through all the garbage here on social media. Yes. And I had a great one today because in Alberta, we have Family Day today. So it's a day off, not in the office. It's nice to be at home. Yes. It says, Happy Family Day. So care of Janice Baskin. It's got a picture of Jack Nicholson from The Shining. And it says, when your kids ask, what are you doing for Family Day? And you remind them it's been Family Day every day for the last 11 months. So you got like Jack Nicholson's, here's Johnny.
Oh my God. And what's so funny about that is actually, so my son-in-law and daughter were here after Valentine's Day. I had been babysitting the grandkids. And so he says to her, she says, well, you don't have to work tomorrow. Hey. And he says, well, why? What's going on? She said, it's Family Day. He goes, like, legitimately? There's a legitimate Family Day? It's like, yes. He goes, oh, well, then I should probably not lock myself in the office and be doing my studies. I should probably spend my time with the family. But just like that, we're all home officing, and that is just priceless, right?
Well, there is another one. So we always have a funny one. So thank you, Janice, for that. Yeah. You won 2 out of 2 this week, and I can't even make this up. So then you had another one. This is awesome. You had the word hustle, and then it has a big line through it saying, and then you changed it to a line. And then it says, destroy the idea that you have to be constantly working or grinding in order to be successful. embrace the concept that rest, recovery, and reflection are essential parts of the progress towards a successful, happy life. And it said long weekend vibes. So positive vibes across the globe today from Janice Baskin. So thank you, Janice, for that. That was, that hit the mark, and it's going to set the tone today because you've got quite a story. And I just want to dive a little bit deeper. I want to share that when you and I first met, I was applying, or I was nominated, I guess, to become the president of my local BNI business networking chapter. And I had to get through you to actually get that honor. So as nerve-wracking as that was, I've never met you before. You've got this title as senior director consultant. I'm like, oh boy, what did I get myself into here? And I go for the interview, and you're just one of those people, Janice, that you meet you for the first time and it's like instant connection. And I felt that from you, and that meant something to me. And then you just went on to share a lot of your experiences when you were president of your local chapter here in Edmonton. And you were just like, I can't take credit for it all. I have to actually give it back on all the people that were a part of my chapter and you surrounded yourself with. And that comforted me because I just built my whole chapter business plan with that as the underpinning, and it worked. So thank you, Janice, for that. And just to share with the audience that going back, that was almost 2 years ago now than we first met, before all this COVID hit the world and before we went into lockdown. So I hit my presidency right when we went on to Zoom online and couldn't meet in person anymore. So that added actually a lot of extra challenges to that. So Janice, your comments on that?
I think the first thing is the whole thing about, I think that's what makes someone a leader, is not to tell people what to do, but to show them the path. And then, by sharing stories and by sharing your own experience, and then asking them to come along for the ride with you. So I think like a big part of when we were talking about being president of a BNI chapter is that, there's that old saying, diplomacy is the art of telling somebody, getting your own way, or telling someone to get your own way. But I really think it's about leading people down a path that they're not even aware that they can take, right? Like my favorite thing in the world is leading a group of people or watching a group of people do something they didn't even know was possible. And so the fact that you and I sort of had that connection in that sense, and then the best part of what I get to do is watch you have that experience that I also got to have. And I've got goosebumps just thinking about it, because how incredible is that to just, we shared an hour where we chatted, and then an experience, and then I get to watch you have that experience. And there's no better feeling than that. And that's giving again, right? That is the essence of giving and receiving something in return.
Couple things. I love that it's not fundamentally horse trading, which I like that you definitely go, this is not the here you give and I receive. It's this bigger circular thing, which is, I think, confused in modern day society. Definitely. And the other thing is that you're informed about the, why do you believe that people can actually do things that they don't think that they're capable of? Where does that come from?
Because people do it every day. They do it all the time. And this is kind of a weird analogy, but I used to love watching The Biggest Loser. And I know that there are some things about that show that maybe, became questionable as time went on. But the thing about that show was that you saw these people take on a challenge and do this thing that they thought was impossible. And at the end, they had something new that they knew about themselves. And it was that they could do something incredible that was literally insurmountable in their lives up until that moment. And it's kitschy and it's network TV, but it sort of represents I think what a lot of us, we sell ourselves short and we don't give ourselves credit for the things that we are so capable of, especially when we connect with other people.
Yeah, agreed. And talk about digging deep. So you've shared a little bit of snippets of your story personally, of your journey, your perseverance, and you're just someone that can really, add a lot of value just from the emotions that you've been through. I don't know how much you want to share about your past, but you've overcome some huge things medically in your life as well. Like, let's rewind the clock a little bit, and if you want, share with the audience, tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So when I was 34, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer. I had a large tumor basically pressing on the lower section of my colon, pressing on my spine. And it was a really difficult year. So the whole treatment process from beginning to end was a year. I had 8 weeks of radiation therapy. It was 5 days a week for 8 weeks. Plus then I had a bowel resection, which was, a week in the hospital. I had a ostomy bag for eight months, and went through 8 months of chemotherapy while I had that ostomy device, and then had another surgery to reverse the ostomy and kind of hook everything back up together again. And as much as I would love to say that I spent that year, reflecting on all the things that I was overcoming and living with a positive attitude and trying to inspire others, that was not the case.
Right.
I really struggled that year. It took a lot out of me. And I spent a lot of time feeling sorry for myself, a lot of time shielding myself from other people. I didn't want to see other people. And I think coming on the outside of that, I realized, that I could get through that, but I didn't ever want to live like that ever again. I never wanted to feel that way again. I didn't want to feel like I couldn't do something, or that I was going to die, or that, just living in fear of constantly not knowing what was going to happen. And so for me, it meant taking steps obviously we cannot control everything, although I try. It meant taking steps to, take control of the things that I could, and do the things that I had always said I was going to do, but never had the courage to do. And that sort of that was 5 years ago that I finished treatment. And that has sort of dictated now the last 5, almost 6 years of my life, is that I'm I don't want to feel that way ever again. I want to say that every day I did everything I could to, just live life to the fullest. It's cliche, but cliche exists for a reason.
Right. Yeah. And so the challenge was that you were going through this very challenging health crisis, and you were isolating yourself. And what the outcome is that you've come out of that, and the community has become more important than ever. Is that sort of the takeaway? The isolation didn't serve you very well necessarily.
Yeah. And people wouldn't allow me, I have incredible people in my life, and I actually people I didn't even know, people I had never met, who just heard my story, drop food off at my front door. People are incredible. People that I hadn't spoken to in years. I'll never forget this. One day I was sitting on the couch, and I was just, beside myself, feeling sorry for myself. And my phone rang, and I wasn't going to answer it, but I thought, well, and I answered it. And it was a woman who was my boss, 3 or 4 years beforehand. And she said, "Hey, I was just thinking about you today, so I thought I would call." And that one little moment where she made that decision to call me changed that day. And she had no idea. She had no idea it would do that for me. So just little things like that, you really begin to see the tremendous wonderfulness of the world, that the people are incredible if you let them in.
Love that you said that, Janice. One thing I think you've exemplified for me, as an example to me, my chapter, a lot of the community that you're a part of, excuse me, is that community is so important. Building relationships being another underpinning, our core value. If you want to speak on that, just, it's about building and building and building from there. And look at where you've come. It's just phenomenal to see.
Yeah, building relationships. Now I've got the frog. Building relationships is important. And sometimes we pay that lip service, but I think what people, because we live in this world that's fueled by social media, and so we feel like we're building relationships with people when we're maybe double clicking on a post, or we're commenting, and all of that is, maybe it's important, and we learn the surface level things. But I think it's so much more important to really dial in, and you can't do this with everybody, but with a few select group of people that share the thoughts and values that you have, so that you can work together to do things. And maybe that's just, that phone call that helps you get out of bed that morning when you need it, up to, things like building a business together, or building a core group of people that help each other's businesses. Like you, Greg, you've done that with some people, where you've taken 2 or 3 people and put your minds together and just make things happen. And so it's like
Amazing what can happen.
Yeah, this picture. Just kidding.
But think about this year. Like, I can't imagine where I'd be today, right now, if I hadn't spent the 3 or 4 years after my cancer diagnosis really deciding to build relationships with people. Mm-hmm. I might still be sitting in my house alone. I mean, I'm not alone. I have a family. I have a husband and children, but without that greater community, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't taken those few years to do that. And it's been great for business, and it's been good. It's been incredible for my mental well-being. And I think, it's about building that foundation of something, so that when the difficult times come, you're supported by that foundation.
And so what encouraged you to be able to reach out to the first, like you had the lady who reached out, the kindness of strangers is such a gift. And because sometimes you can't be a prophet in your own village. We've talked about that lots on the show. It's just like, if people don't understand what you're talking about or what you're experiencing that are right in your own home, for a variety of reasons. But so what was sort of the first, what I'm picturing is that anyone who's listening that might be sitting in the same boat, who's got either, something that's a pretty significant barrier in their life, and they're feeling discouraged about it, down about it, that they can't talk to anybody about it, because it's our secrecy that actually keeps us trapped. It's the secrecy that keeps us in problems. It's when we share what's going on that actually helps. But one of the things I know that has happened in cancer groups, and in many other groups that are supposedly fighting against whatever it is, the enemy, that ends up being the thing that people think connects. And it ends up that you are in a group of people that are dealing with illness. So it can also not be very enlivening, that all you're talking about then is the disease, or all you're talking about is how you're going to, beat it. And the next 15 meetings are all about that. Was there for you a difference in going out to those kind of support meetings and finding people who were healthy? Like, what was your strategy, or did you have a strategy?
That's such a great question. And I haven't thought about this for 5 years, but so I was part of a medical study when I was in cancer treatment. And it was, so they know now with scientific evidence that breast cancer, for example, can be prevented with exercise. And actually the treatment of breast cancer is enhanced when someone has an exercise routine while they're going through treatment, something that they can maintain. So they're now trying to duplicate that across other types of cancer treatment, because not every treatment for cancer is the same. And so I participated in an exercise study for colorectal cancer. And everyone else in that study was male and 70 plus in age.
Right.
So every morning while I was in radiation treatment, so for 8 weeks, 5 days a week, I would go down to the Cross Cancer Center, and I would work out with a group of 70, 75-year-old men.
Like, there's Janice. Yes.
And when I say work out, I mean, some days all I could do was walk on a treadmill, and that's all my body would let me do. But we would get on our treadmills and we would walk, and, we'd talk politics and talk these darn kids and all those things that, but it was so interesting to me, because I was sitting there feeling like I didn't have a community, because, breast cancer, pink ribbons are everywhere you go. And when you're diagnosed with, and this is probably reductionary, but it felt like to me, when you are diagnosed with breast cancer, you're all of a sudden part of this exclusive club, right? That is so much support throughout the entire world. I had rectal cancer. Where's my club? It's kind of how I felt. Right. And then when I started going to these exercise groups with these men, I was like, this is kind of strange and weird, but this is my club. And we didn't talk about the disease at all, right. Like not even a little bit. But it was just that one thing that I did every day that I knew I had to get out of bed for, and that I had a group of supportive people that were there for me. It was neat. I'm trying to picture like the 70-year-old men that were part of that club, and just how you lit the room up just to see you and you getting back to you, and that energy and just what you brought. Did you ever think of it from that perspective? Oh, I would love to say yes, that I went in there and was, all sunshine and rainbow, but I don't think I was. I think those men were pulling me along. I'm not kidding. Like, I think they were like, okay, come on, like, get going.
They must have been it's like we had an episode called Be the Man.
Be the Man.
Be the man. Because there's so many, it's just men who aren't. So look, you found a whole group of people.
Chivalrous men.
That's right. That learned how to do that somehow. That's fantastic. Love that.
So,
I love that.
So I got to ask, so where did that whole Boston Marathon thing come in? Like, tell us in your timeline, like that is quite an accomplishment, and to work up towards that, I know that's not an easy feat. So please share with the viewers who are curious to know.
Yeah. So once I was finished cancer treatment and all my surgeries were sort of finished, and I had a clear CAT scan or CT scan, I just decided, I said to my husband, I want to run the Boston Marathon. And he was like, okay,
like,
what is that? What does that take? So to run the Boston Marathon, you can't just sign up and run. You have to qualify. So I chose a qualifying race. And by qualifying, it means that you are given a set time that you must complete a qualifying marathon. So only a few, well, there's lots, but you have to choose a marathon that is dedicated as a Boston qualifier, and you must run it in a time that is designated for your age and gender. So for myself, I was 35 at the time, so I needed to run a marathon in 3 hours and 40 minutes in order to qualify. And so I ran a marathon in Holbrook, Arizona, which there's a whole nother story there. It's a really strange town. The movie Cars is based on this town. That's all I'm going to say. It's wild. And it's set in a petrified forest. So you run, essentially it's through the desert, and there are petrified trees everywhere, but it was unseasonably hot, and I didn't do it in the 3 hours and 40 minutes. Let's just put it that way. So I had to pick another race. So a year later, I ran the Phoenix Marathon, the Rock and Roll Marathon. And that one, I ran it in, I believe it was 3:32, 3 hours and 32 minutes. So that got me into the Boston Marathon. And so I think I don't know if that's usual. I think I was lucky to get in after only two races. And then, so in 2019, my husband and my parents and a couple of our friends, we went down to Boston, and I got to run the Boston Marathon, which is,
that's very cool.
I don't know, like if you're not a runner, you might not understand it, but it's for a average athlete, it's like you get to be a rock star for a day. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Very, very.
What is it? 30, I think there was 33,000 people who ran it that year, which, so you're literally running shoulder to shoulder with people. But there are millions of people lining the streets, like 2 million people line the streets of Boston. And there are bands playing and people screaming and yelling. And I mean, people handing out beer and vodka if you really wanted to while you're running. It's, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you run past, I don't remember how many, but you run past, 5 or 6 major universities. It's a college town. So it's party central. People are out partying all day. And it's a really, really cool experience to have. And I don't think I said this to you the other day, I don't think I'll ever experience something like that again. You said that maybe I will, but it's humbling and incredible and amazing. And it's something that somehow everyone needs to have that feeling in their life.
Yeah, that's so awesome. What a great story. And anyone who doesn't know what the Boston Marathon is should just do a little Google search about it and get some education, because it's been just around for a very long time. But the other thing that's interesting is you did it in 2019, and that was the last time they probably will have it for who knows how long, given the shenanigan fest that's going on. Who knows, right? You're going to run
Yes.
distances between all the runners. No one can spit on each other. You'll have to bathe in vodka before you go, so you're not carrying any germs. It's just like vodka baths to sterilize.
So they didn't run it last year. They have rescheduled. So usually it's in April, but they've rescheduled it for, I think it's September of this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
Wait and see. But so to the whole thing that everyone thinks that things last forever, that you're going to have your health forever, that you're going to have the ability to go and do these fun things, that you're going to be, just delaying the things that should bring you joy every day because you think that you should be doing that because you don't deserve it or something. This, the fiction of not deserving things in your life, of the good things, the juice of life. And speaking of that, you're so, one of the things that I was really impressed with is your social media presence. And I don't really watch much social media, but Greg introduced me to your TikTok thing. And I just went, oh my, I don't even have TikTok on my phone, just so everyone knows. It's like, I don't even have TikTok. But honestly, if you're going to watch TikTok, you should probably try and find Janice.
Janice and Chris. The Janice and Chris show is just phenomenal. But again, goes back to that, keeping a positive attitude through a crazy time. Like, oh my God, we've had the most challenging year of 2020 in our whole entire lives. And then just seeing you guys as leaders, because it exemplifies who you guys are, and just bringing it usually every day. You guys got something different that you guys are doing, and it's just so cool to see you build the brand of you and you guys and who you are, not only as people, but as business owners in the community. I think it's phenomenal. Janice, whatever inspired you to do that?
So my husband and I own a company called Camelot Interiors, and we sell custom window coverings. It's not rocket science. It's not even really all that glamorous. But it's him and I, and it's something that we decided a long time ago. And when we talked earlier about the post I did about Align, part of our decision to become business owners together was because we wanted to spend more time together as a couple. We just found like we were ships passing in the night, right? And so we had this conversation about like, this is not the life that we see for ourselves. How do we make this, what we want? And we want to be together more. And so he had already owned the company. So I came to work with him. And then I actually have a friend who is a social media manager. That's what she does for a living. And I sat down to talk with her about a strategy for our company. And my intent was actually to hire her. And she said, I'm not going to let you hire me. She said, you and Chris are a little bit weird. You're a little bit quirky. She's like, people want to know you. People want to see that side of you. She's like, if I do your social media, it's not going to be your voice. It's just going to be pictures of product, which is great. Nice product is nice. She's like, but people will love to get to know you. She's like, so just who cares? Who cares what anybody thinks? Have fun, be yourselves. People will love that. And so that's over the last couple of years, that's just been my strategy. I'm like, who cares what people think? Like, it's social media. Like, let's just have a good time. Let's put some positive vibes out there. And again, if we get some business out of it, fantastic. But really, it's about us just being silly and having a good time.
It is honestly it's brilliant. And it's so damn funny. It's just so funny. I laughed. And it's good humor, right? It's not, it's nothing. It's just really good humor and lighthearted, very, very funny. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah. And, like there's an old rule in marketing not to go negative. And
Yeah.
it's not that difficult of a rule to follow, but I think like right now, like you said, you scroll and it's just, like, oh my gosh, like, let's just put a little good into the world and
Let's go gamble because there's something about a casino.
That's right. But
right.
and you slid this thing in that I want to just highlight, because one of my passions is definitely this whole human trafficking and definitely like protecting children. When I was in we were talking prior to getting on the show, I lived in Provost for about 8.5 years, and you know some people from that area or whatever, but my job actually there was the counselor for the school division, and there was lots of sexual abuse cases that came out at that time. And so it's been a passion on my heart for 3 decades, because it's been a long time, right, since I was in that job. But like all the stuff, thankfully, that finally there's some movement where people are understanding that it's a real thing. But you slipped in this really ingenious thing. Can you maybe talk about it a little bit more?
The snow thing where you guys jumped in the snow.
Yeah, it's like what?
So I won't take credit for that, but so we got tagged in a challenge. It was called the ice dip challenge. Yeah. And we got tagged in it by a company out of Calgary that does social media. And the original challenge was actually to fill a bathtub full of water and ice and then sit in it for 11 minutes. But my husband, or 11 seconds, sorry.
Oh my God.
And so it's one of those, like polar ice dip challenges where you're sort of doing something to draw awareness for a cause. My husband is 6'7", and so he doesn't even fit in our bathtub by himself, let alone with me. So we did our own little spin on it, where we went out and we put on our bathing suits and we jumped into a snowbank and we laid in the snowbank for 11 seconds in honor of that ice dip challenge.
Yes, but you said something at the beginning of it about the anti-human trafficking, or a shout out for human trafficking.
Yeah, it was like putting a freeze on human trafficking or something like that. I think it was, which it's called the Calgary Icebreaker is the name of the challenge. So if you look it up on Instagram and Facebook, the whole challenge is there, and the work that they do to, draw awareness to and then help to prevent human trafficking.
Love it. Yeah.
Good cause. Now you bring up the word challenge. I have to ask. So there's probably a lot of listeners here over the last year, maybe husband, wives that have actually owned a business or started a business together, because maybe someone lost their job here in this last year. Mm-hmm. Maybe share with the viewers, like, what kind of challenges did you guys face up and down? Like, it's nice to see you guys really hit the ground running and stay positive, but there's got to be some of those moments where it's just like, you got to like be like choking each other out. Was there any moments like that? And what do you do to kind of really overcome that and really get back to that moment and the humor and everything that you guys are?
The biggest challenge, well, 2 biggest challenges we had. Number 1, I was not a born and bred entrepreneur. My parents were teachers. I was taught that you go to university, you get your vocation, and that is what you do for the next however long you have on the planet. My one brother's an engineer, my other brother's a lawyer, and that is what they will do. And I didn't, so I was, seeking out my place in the world, and I had always worked for somebody else. So when I came to own the company with Chris, it was a huge thing for me to understand that I no longer maybe had benefits that were 100% that somebody else was paying for. I didn't have a paycheck that was every month, you will get this on the 15th and this on the 30th, and that's the way it will be until you get a raise, and so it was a big challenge for me to just learn to understand the ebbs and flows of being okay with feast and famine, of being a business owner and having your good months and your bad months. And now that it's been almost 10 years that we've worked together, I understand that cycle, and I trust the ebbs and flows of it. And I trust that what we're doing in the slower times do help to bring us what we need to get busier and to keep the roof over our head and be prosperous and live the life that we want to live. The other challenge, just in terms of our marriage, was that this was a company that Chris had owned already for, what was it, 10, 11 years at the time, 12 years. And so I was coming into it with my own perspective and my ideas and the way that I like to do things. And so there was a little bit of that, like, well, no, we don't do it that way because this is the way I've always done it. Or
the dovetailing. Dovetailing.
Well, and a big part of it was that I was hungry to learn and hungry to do and hungry to kind of, jump in and be a leader, because I just love to take control of things. And he was comfortable with the way things were. Right. And so I think a lot of it was that push-pull of challenge me, please give me something, and him feeling like, just relax, it's all good. And so really how we've overcome that is we actually sit down now every Friday and we have an hour-long meeting and we chat and how was the week and what do we need to do and how are you feeling and how can I help you? And it's really, marriage is about communication. And when you work together, it's even more about communication.
Yeah. Ongoing.
Yeah.
Ongoing. So has the company grown in that? Do you offer different things, or how's the company grown and changed in the last 10 years since you've come into it and dovetailed in and maybe started putting your stamp on things? Has it changed much?
It hasn't changed a whole lot. Because of the market, we've had some changes that we've had to make just to continue to operate.
Yes.
But in terms of our offerings, like we've picked up a couple of products. I think, for the most part, the biggest change has been marketing. Mm-hmm. So the company sort of existed behind the scenes of other companies for a very long time. And because of changes in the market, in the home building industry here in Edmonton and in Alberta in general, we've had to sort of shift into different markets. So a little bit more commercial work, a little bit more retail than we used to do. And that requires us to market ourselves more. And that's where this whole social media piece came in. That's where B&I came in, is finding ways to connect with people and develop relationships to keep the business generating leads and basically keep things moving in terms of retail. Because I don't believe in things like littering neighborhoods with door knockers and flyers. And I think that TV and radio ads are great, but they're very expensive when you're a small operation. So we had to find a way to create our own niche in the market. And that social media piece is how we've decided to do it. And B&I plays a really big part in that as well.
Yeah. Referral marketing, the social media, the branding, everything that you're doing, I think everyone can learn a lesson from you, because again, it goes back to that whole thing of marketing is recall. and we can watch one of your videos once. Oh yeah, that's that lady that's woo, she's drinking her coffee, or they're jumping in the snow, or it's brilliant what you do, Janice. And I'm in awe of how you and Chris really work so effectively together, but also how in your network, you've got so many people that follow you, and that giver's gain, going back to that award, why I believe you won it, is that you're always giving to build more of that bigger community, the business, not only in Edmonton, but across Alberta. And I think there's something to be said for that, is that we need more of that community building, not just maybe locally, even within our city, but how can we bridge the businesses outward? And I've been called kind of in my heart this year to really collaborate, build community. How can we take that to the whole next level? So Leah, do you want to weigh in on community?
Yeah. And I think it's funny because we come from the same small town, right? So those of you who are listening, I'm from Viking, Alberta. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Hi, Mom. But the funny part is that when you grow up in a small town, everyone knows what everyone's doing, or they think they do, and what they don't know, they make up, right? So it's just that. But that said, you know who you can do business with, and you know who you should kind of maybe reconsider doing business with, because whatever's going on for them. And what happens when you move into a cityscape, or what is trying to be forced upon us right now is this division. It's divide. Everyone's divided about everything. And so the importance of actually community is that then once people get to know you, that speed of trust helps you to do business and do more business and then do referral business. And that's actually how everybody stays afloat and doing well. But when you're living in the kill grid, we'll call it, of the city, where it's like everyone's out for their own best interest. Nobody's, taking care of their neighbor. Nobody's phoning and saying, how you doing? And can I bring you over something to eat? Because they don't even know what's going on in your home. The idea, or not the idea, but the living example of community is more important now than ever. And we have these very real barriers to overcome because we've been told not to trust each other and that you're going to kill grandma if you go over for a visit. So there's this, how do you actually build community behind the screen, or how do you unlock yourself from whatever the mischief is in your mind that's saying that it's actually normal to not spend time human to human? And then how do you then develop that community that is like-minded, that gets together and that sticks together and has each other's backs? Because again, who is your friends and who doesn't necessarily have your best interest. But it's very surprising during these times, a good opportunity for you to figure out who's who in the zoo, figure out who actually ethically, morally, et cetera, has the same fundamental basis of the way they operate in their life. And then those who should go the way of the dodo bird because they don't. Like it's just not worth doing business with some people because they'll cause too much havoc in your life. And so it's like the importance of community, of real people, knowing real people, is this very important connection, I think, right now. So it's like not one-time meeting. It's looking at people through that 7 generations lens again, which we talked about in our very first episode. And that when you look at that 7 generations of people, you go, well, what was going on in your family, and knowing what was going on, and that all of your planning is, is this person going to be friends with me 75 years from now? Like, I think that, is Greg going to be my friend 75 years from now? I'm going to look way better than him by then. Just saying. But that's how if you're looking at people like that, in that way, it's not this 5-minute sort of relationship where it's easy to not take things seriously, not understand the impact that you have on each other's lives, and just for things to be kind of frivolous. And so I don't know that's my kind of take on it. It's just the importance of these long-term relationships, or looking at people like they're your friends, or if they're not, don't invite them in, like have some parameters around. Yeah.
And 2 of the things that I learned this year, and one that I'm always learning, but the one was, it was a saying about if you're basically like a solopreneur or an entrepreneur in a small company, when you go to consult your board of directors, you have to look in the mirror, you might have a problem. Mm-hmm. Meaning that if you were the only person that you're running your ideas behind, you might want to look to find that community where you can, have people who, and this is the other piece of it, who might disagree with you. And that's okay. It is okay to have people that you trust that maybe don't share the same, belief system as you, but you have a way where that relationship works, where you can debate that or understand each other in a healthy way. Yeah. Because if everyone is just telling us what we want to hear, we don't grow. And, if we're only accountable to ourselves, we also don't find opportunity for growth. And so I think that there's this sense that somehow our world needs to be where we all think the same thing. And it's like, well, how boring would that be? Right. Right. Like, I think it's super important that we not walk around with a group of yes people, that we have people in our lives as well that will disagree with us in a respectful way. I mean, there's a great way to do it, and then there's a not so great way to do it. And maybe those are the people that fly the way of the dodo bird, as you put it.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you talked about 7 generation planning, which takes into account our kids and our grandkids. So let's talk about them for a minute, because what about the children? Because your kids are seeing you guys, you're setting this example. Like, when do we get to see them now infused in there, or do they want to be part of mom and dad's business? Share with us a little bit about that and the example that you guys are setting for them.
My biggest thing with my kids is that they might not ever listen to the things I have to say, but they will always see the things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I can set the example. So I work out every day. I do that for myself because I know that's what I need. But I also know that their little eyes are always watching us. And my kids' eyes aren't so little anymore, but they are always watching what we're doing and what we're saying. And so even though you might feel like they don't ever hear you, they are paying attention. My son, who's 11, actually last week, he said to me, "How do you always stay so positive when things don't go your way?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do I have that skill? I don't know. He's like, "It seems like you do to me."
Right.
Wow.
Like, how powerful is that to know that that's something that he's taking in his very short time on this planet? And so, in terms of how the kids will play into the business, I mean, sometimes my youngest son will get into our TikTok videos. The teenager would rather film than be involved.
Right.
His shame level is a little bit higher.
Right.
But we're encouraging our kids to pursue what it is that they will want to do with their lives, and whatever that looks like, we'll do our best to support them in that. I am a big believer in education, so I would like to see them go and get an education somewhere at some point. But we're still a few years away from that, and they don't seem to be interested in the blind business. But hey, you never know.
You never know. So what has changed for them in the last year? So 2019 was, having a good time, and 2020 was a little bit more cloistered. What's it been like for your kids?
Yeah. So I should say that we also have an adult child who is married, and she has 3 kids of her own. So they own their own business, and for them, it's been an interesting year because their business actually took off many fold, and they've sort of learned with their 3 small children to continue working their business together as a couple as well. Mm-hmm. And navigating, I'm grateful actually that my kids are a little bit older because they need a little less tending to these days. But for the boys at home, so they're 15 and 11, being a teenager is hard no matter what the circumstances. And then you take away that ability to gather. And I just think teenagers need that. They need to feel a sense of belonging. They need to know where their people are and who their people are. And so it's been a struggle, definitely for my teenage son. And I do see progression in, just his outlook on things and how things are going, but it sucks. It sucks for him. It sucks so much. There's really not much else we can say about it, right? So we just try to talk about it in terms of just imagine, how will you talk about this 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Imagine the resiliency that you're building for later in life. You're going through something that nobody can ever say that they did at your age, right? We try to have conversations like that. There's maybe a little too much screen time in our house. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time,
it's not like we're living in the middle of the desert where you can go outside and catch the sun and it's nice balmy weather. It was like minus 31 here last night. We're going, okay, then. So my kids tried to jump in the hot tub and they were like, "Oh, my face is completely frozen, Mom." And the grandkids came in and they're like completely ice cube blocks. So the screen time, that happens, I think, also because we just don't have the ability to go outside and run through the sand or, even down a street when it's this kind of temperature. So we're living in a part of the world where it's a little bit different of a challenge for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. But you know what? They had their communities online. So they've learned to, yesterday, my 11-year-old played Dungeons and Dragons over Zoom for 3 hours. So they're figuring it out too.
They are. That's right.
Yeah. Well, resilient. And I love that you said that he had the perception to ask you that really deep question, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you stay positive? Like that for a child to ask. And again, just this time, I thought that was really insightful to really, dig deep like that. And then see your reaction and how you answered it, I think was even better.
that will stick with me forever, that he asked me that question. He took me off guard, and then I was like, do I have that? Like, but maybe I do. I don't know. It's something he sees anyway.
Yeah. Critical skills for surviving through challenges is the ability to see things as your cup overflowing. But you said that must be something you developed since your time with the through your colorectal cancer sort of things. You were not, like you said, you didn't go through your most bright, shiny moment at that point. So maybe it's something that you picked up out of that journey, is to be able to become more tenacious and to show more of a positive side. Would you say that that is part of the outcome of that journey?
Yeah, most definitely. I definitely, it's really, I mean, something that I'm really focusing on now is being able to watch my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So sometimes in meditation, people talk about how they can't stop their mind. And it's really not about stopping your mind. It's about learning to watch your mind and then the impact that it's having. And so that's something that, because it's not about, I mean, we have this whole culture too of toxic positivity, where it's like, you can't be shielded from the things that are actually happening and the things that you have to deal with. But it's about understanding just sort of the pathways that our brain can take us on, and how, you know, if we're not careful, we may allow that to take over, and it'll take us in a direction that's not great. And I think that that's really what happened to me that year during cancer treatment, was that I allowed that story to continue to just run through my mind of negativity, and I'm not going to make it, and, you know, all the awful things. And again, it generated this whole feeling of, I don't ever want to feel that way again. So if I can be conscious of those things that are happening in my brain, and maybe not stop it, but just notice it and then allow it to pass, that's, you know, kind of the goal.
Yeah. The observer.
Yes.
The observer. Nice.
And I'm saying these things not as an expert on that subject. I'm saying it as a reminder to myself that,
right,
that this is the thing that I'm working on. And this is the thing that I will always be working on, because I mean, if we mastered it, then I guess we'd find enlightenment, and that would be, I don't know, that would be the end of it.
Or the start of it.
Well, true. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I got to say, Janice, you've been just such an inspiration. I want to just say that thank you so much for sharing your story, because I know people are struggling right now in this time, even if there's some people listening that are going through it, whether it's an illness right now, or an addiction, or a job loss, or going through what we've talked about, going through that separation and divorce right now. Just hearing some of the strategies, that's what we want to try and do here. Just keep bringing people to the stage that have overcome things, but not just overcome them. They've like elevated to a whole nother level. When you say alignment, you know, that was one key word you brought up when we were interviewing you before having you on the show. Can you just want to dive into that word? Why alignment? Because I think there's something really divine about that word and how you put it into context.
Yeah. And it's really about a feeling. Like, whenever I get this feeling or this sense that what I'm doing doesn't align with my values, or it doesn't align with who I am, I feel this huge discord, this disconnect. And so over the last few years, I've really tried to start to pay attention to that. And again, it has to do with the story that we tell ourselves in our head about who we are. And so I'll give the example. A few years ago, I quit drinking. 2.5 years ago, I quit drinking. And it wasn't because I was, you know, I had a huge problem. I mean, I do believe that I had a little bit of a problem, but it wasn't like the show Intervention, where I'm, you know, coming home every day and falling down on my lawn. But it was enough of a problem that it bothered me. And every time that, you know, we would gather and I would, you know, have too much wine or a little bit too much to drink, and I get loud, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd feel this sense of like discord and this almost like shame, but like, where I just didn't feel like, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And so how do I change that narrative? Because I'm the only one who can. And so, making the decision, as hard as it was to stop drinking, has changed my life in so many ways. And I think that as I start to, continue to go through that journey, I continually find these little things where I go, that doesn't feel like me. That's not who I want to be. So what can I do to make that change, to make it feel more like in alignment with who I am? And every time I do that, every time I come through that process, at the end I go, yes, yes, that was what I was supposed to do. And then things come out of the universe that I just like this.
Yeah, that's so incredibly important right now, this story of the alcohol thing, because so many people are struggling with addiction. So many people are struggling with alcohol and drug addictions and pornography, gambling, that just goes on and on. Even going to the gym too much is an addiction. Anything that's overdone is overdone. And all of that can lead to the destruction of the body and the spirit, that feeling of neglect or regret, and that you haven't that you're not living the way that you want to live your life. So I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think that's even more important than the cancer. The alcohol and drug thing right now for a lot of people has been the albatross around their neck. And during 2020, I've just turned on the news one day and went, what the hell is the anchor of the local news station doing breakfast with alcohol, like learning how to mix drinks and have them for breakfast, and then they're all laughing about it. Like, I'm like, what in the hell is, and this is why I don't watch TV. Like, what in the hell? That's what the hell, exactly. So, but thank you for sharing that, Janice, because I think it's very relatable. And right now also is an absolute opportune time in the new year, and it still is the new year. There's still lots of contrast that's happening planetarily. For anyone who watches anything astrological, the real stuff that is going on is that we really do have 5 planets in the same sign. We're all feeling a lot of constriction and a lot of pressure. There's a lot of anger in the world. There's a lot of conflict in the world. It's out there and it's in here, both. So the in here opportunity, though, is when you actually recognize that it's this very powerful time that you can almost with ease walk away from all that stuff and just drop it just like that. So it doesn't have to be torture. It doesn't have to be like take forever. You don't have to lay on the floor bleeding going, oh my God, it's going to be so hard for me. Literally, you can just go, I think that's enough of that, and done, just like that. So this is this very cool energetic time to take advantage of if you've been struggling with any kind of addiction, because we're being offered it right now to do that until the springtime. So people got a little bit of time where it's going to be really easy to walk away from that stuff. Yeah.
It's not in alignment.
It's not
enhancing you.
That's
Why are you doing it?
That's
so
right.
There you go. So I think everyone needed to hear that from you, Janice, that it's like, go back to your story of survival, perseverance, and just taking off from there, setting the goals of getting that marathon, getting the qualification where you had to do the first one and then the one in Phoenix and then actually the Boston, and then seeing your business take off from here. Like, look at all the things that have kind of in alignment now. And that, I'm just truly proud of you, Janice. I'm just so happy you could come join us here today on the show. It just, more people need to hear some of these messages, and what can you do? What should you do? And just, what are the steps? What are some of the strategies here? So how do people get a hold of you, Janice, if they want to reach out?
I won't give you my phone number.
Social media, maybe they need some inspiration on
social media. You know what? I'm very active on social media. I'm most active on Instagram. So I have 2 accounts. One is at Janice Baskin, and the other is at Camelot Interiors. So I'm always, I answer my DMs very regularly on there, and I'm on there far too much. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, but I am a little bit choosy about who I let into that circle. Typically, it's if I have a connection with somebody, then I will, accept a friend request. So really, for people that I don't know, probably Instagram is the best way.
Awesome. So it's with blind enthusiasm that we actually give Greg the opportunity to share the song of the week.
So special request, song of the week. And what is it? You got to share with the audience. What is your song of the week? And you got to tell the story.
I don't know why this popped into my head, but we were talking the other night and they said, what's the song? And I said, Here I Go Again by Whitesnake.
I'm like, yes, some
That's
classic rock.
We were laughing about this thing.
And
So
then
funny.
you said you jumped in the vehicle the next morning.
Yes. And I haven't heard that song in probably, I don't know, like who knows how long. And I didn't have any of my music apps open or anything. And I turned on my car and that song was blaring on the radio the next morning.
What are the chances of that? Like,
Well,
Yeah.
talk about
Crazy.
alignment, blind enthusiasm, call it synchronicity.
Yeah.
So-
I look like a maniac driving down the road, just bursting out laughing
And singing it.
and singing. Yes.
Do you want to sing it with me? Because it is a rock band song. My little birds love it when I sing this one.
Oh.
Because I get like the full rock star going on.
I did not know this. I'm just going to say that. Go.
Okay, so let's end the show. We're up on the hour. Janice, this is your dedication for today. Here I go again. All right?
Thank you.
I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been. Hang on to the promises and songs of yesterday. And I made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again. Here I go again. Though I keep searching for an answer, I never seem to find what I'm looking for. Oh Lord, I pray you give me strength to carry on. 'Cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. And I've made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Just another heart in need of rescue, waiting on love's sweet charity. And I'm gonna hold on for the rest of my days, 'cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. And it goes on another chorus, 'cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone, and I've made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again on my own. So again, it goes on and on. Another little classic rock by Whitesnake. Love it. Here I go again. Great song. Love it. Good way to take out
That
the
was
show.
a very good way to take out the show. Thanks again.
Definitely.
Janice.